Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Wednesday, February 7th, 2018, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. Our guest today is Jack Turkel. Jack is a professional photographer of 20 plus years. His agency is Jack J Digital, jackjdigital.com. And he is in the serving the greater New York City area, New Jersey area. Hey, Jack, good to see you.
Hi, Dan. Good to
So,
be here.
terrific. I think you joined the We Get Around Network Forum in about mid-January.
Yeah, about that.
And I think at that time we had exchanged some emails and you were thinking about buying a Matterport camera and you had some questions.
hmm
And I was thinking, wow, well, Inman Connect New York 2018 was right around the corner. You could get a free day pass to go check out the exhibitors. And I think exhibiting at that time was Matterport, iGuide. Um, let's see, who else was there?
Uh, iGuide, the new I can't read one, but the N. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, Nodal View
Nodal View, the Nodal View.
and GOCV. There might have been some others,
There's a
but
couple others and a couple of newbies too downstairs.
couple newbies. So what I was suggesting, I think, to you was to, maybe to help you move your decision forward to think about whether you wanted Matterport or something else or whatever that might be good to go to the show. So spoiler alert, don't tell me anything. And I don't know what you've bought yet or you haven't bought, but let's first talk a little bit about you.
hmm
Tell me about you as a professional photographer. How long have you been doing this and with your own business and maybe before that?
Well, it all started, believe it or not, when I picked up my first 35 millimeter camera in high school and realized right then and there I wanted to be a photographer.
So that was about 5 years ago.
Six. And yeah, it preceded one of the first jobs I got out of college was teaching video production and photography in the high school that I actually graduated from. That was only for a short period of time. And then I ended up landing a job at a major lab studio in the Princeton, New Jersey area and went on to manage that. And that's where my professional areas of studio photography got polished. And I did that. I was there for 15 years and managed that studio and did a lot of things with the university and major companies in the Central Jersey area. And then then after that, I decided to move into more of a graphics design area and working with computers and presentations, and did that for several years until I landed a job in a major pharmaceutical company, and then worked with them for many years, working with graphics, and then ended up starting their photography studio at one of their major locations. So I did studio photography for them for a while.
About 10 years, 10 or plus years that you were working for this major pharmaceutical company. And then from there, I think you went out on your own, and that's been about 10 years.
It's been, yeah, a little over 10 years. It was, yeah, about 10 years ago that, those major layoffs going on all over the country. And my department and many other people ended up having to move on. And I decided I was moving out of the corporate world and decided to open up my own studio.
And 10 years later, here you are, still doing this.
Later, I'm still here.
Yeah. Still doing that. So I thought you were kind of an interesting use case as a customer journey, because you are the quintessential professional photographer. I've looked at your website, looking at pictures from Mount Fuji to NASA's space shuttle, to food styling, just all across the board, professional photography, studio, out in the field, etc. So let's begin with this question about, well, maybe even how did you find the We Get Around Network Forum, and why were you thinking about buying a Matterport camera?
Well, I came across a website it may have even been on Facebook or some link that went to show a demonstration of virtual reality. And I've been looking for other directions to take my offerings to in my studio. So I came across the Matterport ad and clicked on it and saw the dollhouse thing and got the wow factor, and decided to look into it further because it just seemed like something that I could really market and make and add it to my inventory, what I have to offer. And then in asking questions about it, I found that the forum, and you were very nice in helping me go through some of my questions, and to give me the opportunity to really understand what I was getting into and to realize the alternatives and how large this industry is.
Mm-hmm. I think in fairness, I think really I was just sending you links to the forum where other people had probably answered a lot of your questions.
Well, yeah, but you were a catalyst to make all that come together. So the forum is just, it has a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think you should quit your day job and read it for about the next 10 years and see if you can get up to speed of the, I think, 40,000 plus posts.
Oh yeah, that would be yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff there. So I sent you some links. You had mentioned that you were in New Jersey. It seemed like Inman Connect being in New York would be a good thing for you. You went. Um, tell us about your experience checking out the different camera companies' platforms that you looked at.
Well, first of all, I mean, like you mentioned, I'm a creative commercial photographer. I do commercial stuff as far as in my business, and I do fine art photography, and I do I'm more on the creative side. Plus, I have a technical side as well. But going to Inman, it was a little bit of overwhelming. Because there was just so much going on. And there was a lot of it that was strictly devoted to real estate. And then there was a section that was devoted to the kiosks for these different types of camera technologies. So I went to each one and I just got a taste of what they had to offer and what I found that was relatively similar and the costs involved. And just get a good idea of more about the technology than anything else. I mean, the only thing you can't do at one of those is talk to people who have actually used it to kind of get comments and feedback in that sense. So that's something I'm still working on, because I hear from different people who use iGuide or Matterport or whatever, don't get it or do get it, or you want to try this first, or you don't, this is not, you get everything from all over the place. So I wanted to get a more rounded understanding directly.
Mm-hmm. So do you want to speak about the different platforms or cameras that you saw, or about what you decided and why? Or
the main one I wanted to see was the Matterport camera, because that's the camera and technology that I was first introduced to. And when I found out about it, I'm like, okay, I definitely want to see what this is and get an idea of what it's going to take to do. And of course, the person there, they're sales reps. They're going to tell me exactly what I need. They want to tell me to make me want to go along with them. The Matterport camera was interesting. Actually, it was a little smaller than I expected it to be. When you look at it on a website, it looks like it's this big, and it's actually more like, it's a little bit smaller. It doesn't look like a regular camera, but it was small enough to make it convenient. I love the Matterport system. I love the technology. I think it is the easiest way to make it work well. The technology, my analogy is Matterport is a Mac and some of the others are PCs. Okay, I think I mentioned that once before. Because Matterport does a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. You upload your stuff to the cloud. The camera pretty much does anything. You're just basically placing it around. You have to have a basic understanding of that. And then it comes down and you get the links and off it goes. Some of the other companies, iGuide has the rig that you put your own camera into, has similar ways of doing it, but there's a little bit more you do before it goes up. And NotalView is similar in the sense of it gives you an opportunity to see what you've got and before it goes to the cloud for processing.
I should mention that you were kind enough to be our field correspondent, and
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, that
I,
was interesting. Yeah,
I asked you. I said, "Hey, nodal view is somewhat new on our radar. How about shooting some, video, interview them?" And I think the question that you asked me said, "Well, Dan, how can I do that? I don't know anything about them, and I'm trying to think about what kind of camera to get." And I said, "Great, just record the conversation
yeah,
that you would have asking about, I'm looking at Matterport. Why should I pick nodal view instead?"
right.
So for our viewers, they can see that. I think it was about a 6-minute video that you filed. You're like a one-take wonder. You just nailed it.
I do a little video now.
And it's available in the We Get Around Network forum, or on the YouTube channel. Just search for Nodal View, and you'll find that either in
Right,
the forum or our YouTube channel.
right. Yeah, I mean that worked out well, and I got a good sense of nodal view and what it is able to do. I liked they were very nice. The people, they were very busy, and I waited for them to have enough time to devote to talking to me. But the people there were very nice, and the software and the way it works, using just a 360 camera as opposed to a proprietary type of. It's mostly the software and everything else. I liked it. I liked it in the sense that it gave you more hands-on, as opposed to just letting the camera do everything. It gives you an opportunity to kind of create more upfront and manipulate and adjust what you want the processing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because I'm more of a hands-on guy, I thought that would be, something I would like to do. But on the other hand, depending on how much stuff I'm actually going to be doing, there's a benefit to having the camera and the cloud do everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
So Matterport has its audience and has its the people who want to go in that direction. That kind of, everything is kind of done for you for the most part. I mean, you can download some of the files and adjust it otherwise. But for the most part, if a realtor is going to buy this,
Well,
they do not want to deal with that.
let's talk about for you, because you're a professional
Yeah,
photographer,
right.
20 plus years. In your mind, I think when you joined the We Get Around Network forum, you were thinking, okay, I'm going to buy a Matterport camera and I'm going to get some help in the community to
Mm-hmm.
figure out all the questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, there's about 80 cameras in the space, about 20 platforms. You could see some of them at Inman Connect. Did going to Inman Connect help you make a decision, or actually just make you like more confused than ever about what solution to get?
Well, I don't want to say it didn't help me, but it did give me time to reflect on my choices, because I was very close to getting Matterport. Okay, and I'm still considering it. Financially, you got to be aware of how much it's going to cost, and iGuide is similar price structure. There's different price structures as far as the processing costs are. But iGuide and Matterport tend to be very similar. Nodal View is a different type of, there's no monthly thing. And so it's a little different than the way they set it up. But some of the others just don't have the control. I mean, the difference between the Matterport, what I love about the Matterport is it's very similar to a Google Street. So it's not a 360 locked in one place and you're able to just spin around. It allows you to flow from one location to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives more of a feeling of walking through the house, as opposed to locking in one place and turning your head, which is fine. I mean, the quality was there. I had no problem doing that. I think a lot of it has to, I want to wow the client. And, Matterport has that extra edge, that extra wow factor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think what it comes down to for me is to be aware of the fact that whatever I decide, I got to decide while the iron's hot. And the technology is only going to be able to do this for the proprietary cameras that these companies are offering for another year or two. Then you're going to have 360-degree cameras on your iPhone and other phones, and it's all going to be up to the processing. You're not going to have to buy a special camera. I mean, you could if you want, but some of the people who are willing to will just be able to buy. I mean, you can buy a Ricoh 360-degree camera for a couple $100, and the processing through some of the other companies will be able to deal with that just well. It won't have the dollhouse, it won't have the smooth transition like Google Streets, but it will be more than enough for most clients to deal with. So
you teased us a little bit, Jack, because you've said that you actually haven't bought anything yet. So
right.
So this is interesting because back in, I say, mid-January, I think you were ready to go. I believe you were.
Yeah. I was ready to go until I went to Inman, and the only reason that Inman stopped me is because now I have four other concepts I've got to really think of, and I got to put it all through through the business plan, and the overall monthly cost, the yearly cost, the camera cost, and how much I can get out of, how many clients can I actually add up, and what's going to be the biggest wow factor. So it gave me time to think, and see, there's no specific timeline for me. I mean, it's not like I had to have the camera right away. This is going to happen when I feel ready to do it, financially and technically viable. I'm leaning towards Matterport, but I liked both the Nodal View and the iGuide. They both can do similar things, but they do it differently.
Did you visit with GOCV at all?
GOCV, yes, I visited with them too. I liked all of them. And to be honest with you, and I apologize for this, is some of the details of all these different companies, I don't have enough in my head to be able to explain the differences between all of them, because it was just so much.
Well, actually, Jack, it's not necessary to apologize, because we really do want to hear what it's like to be overwhelmed when there's so many possibilities, and then partly, I think what I'm hearing, it's somewhat of a blur that you've met with so many companies.
I did.
You may not actually remember which is it might even be typical of this process.
Well, I mean, to give you I've got brochures from every different company here, and it's here's iGuide, and Matterport's in here, the Box Brownie company that I mentioned to you, everything's in here. So here's here's GOCV. So they're all here, and I've been busy lately, so unfortunately I haven't been able to focus, no pun intended, on sitting down and actually. What I want to do is do a pro and a con list. I want to put every one of these companies and put them on a list and say, okay, what are the features? What is the overall monthly cost, the yearly cost, the camera cost? And then just do a comparison, a direct comparison. I know there's kind of stuff like that online, but I wanted to do it myself. But so this, I've been slowly doing it, and I just haven't gotten to the point of doing the actual decision making. Here's the Matterport, the little dollhouse thing in there. So
maybe in your spare time you'll scan some of those and post them to the forum. I think.
Yeah, I can do that. There was another one here, another company that basically they just do post. I can't find it right now, but there was a company that basically you do your views, your 360 straight views, and they will manipulate it and put it all together and be able to adjust. And one of the different things I'm trying to find I can't find the card right now, but it's the company was able to, is this it? Yeah. Porch D was another company. And they're mostly in.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, they were in the newbie section downstairs.
Okay. So if you're just starting out, Inman Connect has a special section for startups.
Yes.
Nope.
But they didn't. They did something where, you know, you use whatever camera you want. You do the 360, and they do a lot of image manipulation and just a lot of you know, little interesting things. That's where a lot of it is going, as far as allowing the person with the camera to put all the images together and then have this big algorithm processing process, or process all the images, and then be able to, you know, adjust the outdoor window view so it's not blown out, or some of the others I can't remember off the top of my head, but some of them will take the image, and if you happen to be doing a scan of an empty room, you can pay for them to put virtual furniture in the house. So it's, you know, it's there's there's so many different things. It just gets overwhelming. I don't want to quote the wrong company that does some of these things, but
would you prefer that I had not mentioned that there were about 80 options?
Yeah.
And just bought the Matterport camera, been done with it, and move forward, or is this a good problem that you have other?
No, it's a good problem, but you got to put aside the time to make it work. You got to put aside the time to really go over the information. And that was the nodal view. The nodal view was able to they were one of the ones that were able to take an image of, let's say, an outside, you know, an inside shot where there's a lot of different, I don't know if you can see that. It's like, you know, it's like that's the before and that's the after.
Wow, that's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, when you're dealing with, if you're not a professional, you know, you're going to deal with situations where you got a part of the room in darkness, and then you got the window next to it, and it can't expose everything perfectly. So there are algorithms and processing with certain companies, and Nodal View is one of them, that can balance all that out and make that HDR kind of effect, where the lighter parts and the darker parts get balanced. That's important to me. I mean, you know, I can do that manually, but, you know, I want to have a company that can do it for me if I have a lot of this stuff going on. So you know,
I hear that timing is you're not in a rush when it's the right time. So what do you think that for you the next steps are in helping you make a decision?
For me, it's like I said, for me, it's going to come down to the overall cost up front. I mean, that's not going to be the main thing that's going to make me buy it or not. I mean, that all gets dealt with over time. But it's going to be how much control I have over the camera, how much, you know, how quickly I can do it. And I have to do my own research. I mean, I have to go out there and talk to people who have these cameras already or are doing this kind of work, Matterport Pro people already, and get a sense, or, you know, work with somebody that already has it, and then say, okay, show me what you do, and be a shadow to it. Or you know, get a cheaper camera and do these, you know, and do a trial with some of these on my own. Because, you know, I'm at that point right now where I can't make a decision until I go through some of these other steps.
I could imagine that these companies might have asked for your business card or et cetera. Have any reached back out to you since the show?
Just Matterport. Yeah, just Matterport so far. I mean, I unfortunately hadn't taken enough business cards. You know,
so
I should have, but I didn't take enough because I wasn't thinking in that direction.
Tell us about the follow-up that you got from the Matterport rep.
Well, he ironically called me today. When I called him and said I was interested, I didn't tell him when. I said, "Well, I'm interested in considering this camera." Of course, they were obviously very interested in being as helpful as they possibly can. And their reps were texting and emailing, and then called me today and said, "Is there anything I could do to help you make this decision?" And you know, even he agreed. He said, you know, the technology is, you know, has a limit to the, you know, the ability of having to use these specialized cameras, and they're focusing on having the processing be, you know, bar none better than anyone else. So you know, he wants to be available for me, and he, you know, he's that's about it. He's just trying to be as helpful as he possibly can, so I can make an educated, decision as far as their camera's concerned. And I'm going to follow up with some of these other cameras once I deal with going through all these all these different things. I don't know what there's another portal. That's the thing. I mean, here this company was just for virtual VR. So you would do a simple 360 with a camera, and then they would process it to plug it into one of those virtual VR things, and then you get to kind of look around each room. How you move from room to room, I don't know yet, but there's a lot of companies jumping on the bandwagon because the technology is fresh and new, and there's a lot of people that are trying to kind of strike while the iron's hot and pull in as many people as they can. Let's see. I'm trying to see what this is. Oh, that's the port CD one.
Is part of what you're planning to do is to create a spreadsheet to compare the upfront cost with the annual cost?
Yeah.
I think there was something else you mentioned. The upfront cost, the annual cost.
The upfront, the equipment cost, the annual cost, the monthly fee, the processing fee. I'm going to break it all down so I know, like, every time I go, if it's going to be homes, if it's going to be residential homes, if I go to a home, what is the market calling for as far as what I can make? I mean, that's ultimately this is going to be part of a business. So I got to decide how much it's going to cost versus how much I can charge per square foot or per package, or adding my still photography to it. There's a lot of different things that I can figure out. The support. Without naming names, I've heard that some people have more support. Some companies are more better at support than others. So I'm going to get some feedback about that, and maybe just buy a simple $200 camera and try to see if I can market that. And and while I'm talking to these people, say, hey, this is what this company Matterport camera can do. This is what I can do. I wouldn't say Matterport. I said, I can also do this for you. I can also do something that can give you the dollhouse, and I can offer it and see if there's an interest. If there's enough interest, then the decision is being made for me. It's different for me. I mean, I'm a still photographer. So it's a whole different world for me to get into something that is creating this whole technical razzle dazzle to, but again, it comes down to, as a photographer, are there enough realtors and business owners that are going to be interested in the technology? So I think what was once said before, ultimately, I'm a technical person, I'm a photographer, but ultimately it comes down to marketing it. Is you got to be a good salesperson. You got to be a good sales rep that's able to prove this could be something that these people can use, that these realtors can use.
Interesting. I would say, if you're thinking about realtors, real estate agents, since you've been in the business 20 years, 10 years, 10 plus years on your own, I would imagine that this is more of an upsell to existing clients, trusted relationships that you have. Have you gone back to any of them and chatted about this yet, or not yet?
Only very on a very small level. I mean, most of my clients are corporations and stuff. I don't see there being a direct need. I work with pharmaceutical companies and food companies and stuff like that.
Factory tour, be able to document spaces.
Well, I'm going to be doing that. As a matter of fact, I did a large photo exhibition for a local high school a couple of years ago that was being torn down, and I was the photographer of record to photograph the kids in the rooms and everything before it was torn down, and then I did stuff after everything was, so it was like a before and after thing. But they're building the new school now. It's a massive school, and I'm thinking I'm in the process of working to find out how, something like this, a walkthrough, a virtual tour for all the students would be phenomenal. You know, if I can find somebody in the organization of the school board that wants to pay for whatever I would come up with, that's a done deal. Then I'm just going to get, I'll get one of the systems, possibly Matterport, and it would pay for itself. But because it's such a big job, I mean, it's it's a 50,000 square foot school, whatever it is. So that's something I'm really considering.
I wonder if it would make sense to go back to the school and let's say Matterport, pick one of the solutions.
Yeah, whichever one.
Looked at, and just offer it to them.
Yeah, I am.
No, but come up with a rate card.
Right.
Tell them what you're going to charge. And if you get the business to sub it out to another Matterport Pro until you know that there's enough business for you, meaning, by the time you add up the cost of the camera, the iPad, the tripod, I'm sure you have, but you might need a special head, a quick release plate that's a little different. The processing, the hosting, if you're up to, you could easily be up to $10,000.
Yeah.
So maybe before you go decide to spend $10,000 to go see if you can actually make a sale and fulfill the sale with another pro in your area, and at the same time then ask the pro to say, look, I want to engage you. It's my client, but I'd like to watch your workflow while you scan. I'd like to watch your post-production so that I understand the process. And I'll do this a few times until I have the confidence that I really can develop business.
I think that's an excellent idea. I had a tendency to kind of jump into wanting to have, I'm used to the control I have because it's my own studio. So my tendency is to jump ahead and get the stuff and then figure it out later. But, your suggestion, which I think is sound, is, something, if I find the right person that I feel confident can do the job, that's an alternative option that, that I can consider.
So if you go to in the We Get Around Network Forum, you'll see up at the top, there's a tab that says Find a Matterport Pro.
Yes.
And you'll find a pro in the greater New York City area. If you want to find one in whatever area, and you don't see a Matterport Pro on the map, just simply either shoot me an email or private message me. Happy to provide free referrals. It's kind of win-win. You get to decide whether you can actually make sales, and and another pro ends up getting some business.
Right.
So,
yeah, definitely something to consider. I think once you stop and think about all the possibilities and options, it's there. It's a matter of just going and there's enough, with any of these companies, and particularly Matterport, where you can have a link showing a demonstration of any given scenario. So it doesn't have to be something I personally did. It's like, well, here's a house. This is the way it looks with a house. Here's a business. Here's some company that you can see the floor plan. So I can show and sell from all the stuff that's already out there.
Part of it, Jack, is I would say if you're not a residential real estate photographer, I'm not sure that I would suggest you go pursue that. It's quite a red ocean. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people that understand the residential real estate. I think in your case, what I would suggest is leverage your existing relationships and to see if trusted relationships over time is something that you can actually convert to paid business. Because if you can't convert your current existing clients, your trusted relationships over time, I think you'd probably have a challenge pursuing a vertical that you don't have any previous experience in with yet a new technology that some people may have a couple years head start. Now, it's possible that a lot of agents still don't know about Matterport, and therefore you might still be new to talk to them. But I'm just thinking, if you're trying to make a decision about buying the camera, I would say no matter what camera you buy, as a professional photographer, getting up to speed will be fast and easy.
All right. Yeah, I'm not worried about that part.
Not worried about it. So I think probably the single hardest piece of this decision-making process is, can you make a sale?
Right.
And that's what I would push back on you, to not get overwhelmed by all the different options. And, you might go in and say, see if you can sell Matterport, or see if you can sell GOCV, and hire a local GOCV photographer, or,
right.
So forth.
Right.
So, if that makes sense, please use the We Get Around Network Find a Matterport Pro page. You can look for the public profiles on the map, or again, just ask me or private message me. I know that we have a Matterport Pro in our virtual studio audience. I thought I'd see if we can bring him on board. This is Carl Hodges. He's a Matterport Pro in the UK, and he's been sending me some side notes while we've been talking. Carl, let me see if I can just send you an invite to turn on your camera. Let's see, not sure that I can, but if it's possible for you to turn on your video, that would be good. Carl, and I know you had some questions, so are you able to join us? Let's see. He can only text. Okay, so he's been. Why don't I relay some questions? He writes that before he bought a Matterport camera, before he became a Matterport service provider, he was not a professional photographer. He bought the Matterport camera system, and I think he actually wants to continue the conversation with you, because he mentioned that using Matterport for schools and that he's using Matterport for schools and education in the UK, and he's finding plenty of interest and scope for profit versus cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? In fact, what I would suggest, Jack, if you think the category you want to pursue first is schools, why don't you post in the We Get Around Network forum that you're thinking about buying a Matterport camera. You thought you might go out and see if you can make some sales. What are some tips that other Matterport pros that have done schools might offer up to help you make a pitch? It might be they share some models, so that you can say, here's an example of a school, so that when you go in and talk to the administrator, you can say, here's an example of what I can do for you. That might be an example.
Right.
They might be able to, and hopefully Carl will chime in the We Get Around Network forum. Carl is his Matterport service provider business is VR Impact, and he's writing me that he's happy to give you his help. And I think for the benefit of everybody, if you just post publicly in the forum, then I think Carl will chime in the forum and maybe offer some samples, etc. Maybe there's some potential sales tools in the category of schools. Maybe there's some tips.
Right.
If you do the spreadsheet, I'd certainly love to have that master sheet, perhaps posted in the forum, to say, here's your research. You did the spreadsheet. You looked at the different camera companies. This is what you've come up with what the cameras cost. Your upfront cost. This is what your annual cost is, and whatever else you come up with.
Yeah, when time allows me, with working it into the things that I'm working on, I'm definitely going to build this chart, if you will, and have it be a way of kind of sifting through it all, and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think I'm going to definitely take your advice and use the ability of other Matterport pros, or any of the cameras, any of the other companies, and see if I can get the people interested, whether it's a school, if it's a business, or if it's a construction company. If the market is allowing me to pull it in, then yeah, I'll start with using other people's ability to do it, and then I'll eventually get to the point of doing it myself if it goes in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
One of the tools that may be helpful for you in your decision process, because certainly one of those questions is how much can I make? How much can I charge?
right.
As a We Get Around Network Forum member, one of your free membership benefits is the Guide to Matterport Service Provider Pricing. It's an online guide that has deep links to 100 plus Matterport service providers rate cards so that you can quickly
That's an excellent option. Yeah,
yeah, because
excellent.
now you can be clicking through and going, oh, okay, are they charging by the square foot? Are they charging as a tier? You're a professional photographer. You do photos, you do videos. What are people doing in terms of bundles? What does the pricing look like? I wouldn't spend too much time with it because I think pricing is always a test and learn process. But you might just have an all-in price. So when you go talk to a potential client to the school, is just figure it out.
Yeah, oh yeah, I would have to have it all figured out ahead of time. Sure, definitely.
Yeah. So that's the Guide to Matterport Service Provider Pricing. As soon as you joined as a We Get Around Network Forum member, you automatically received a welcome email from me. In that email is about 14 free membership benefits simply by being a forum member, and you'll see the link and the password to the Guide to Matterport Service Provider Pricing.
I'll definitely follow up with that. And yeah, and listen, getting into the straight photography, and I've dealt with so many photographers who will ask, oh, I'm going to do this group shot, or I'm going to do this picture of intent. What do I charge? What do I charge? It's so helpful to deal with the industry of people who are already doing it, and if they're willing, obviously, to give you a sense of what the market bears, and then make your call from there. So it goes the same for this technology.
Yeah, well, you've been very generous with your time. I so appreciate you taking the time so that we could understand the customer journey for a professional photographer thinking about buying Matterport or another camera. So thank you so much for
Oh,
taking
you're welcome, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping, Jack, that we might actually have this is what I bought, this is why I bought, but the fact is you're still deciding, and I think that's some.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a rush and there's not a rush. There's no rush because it's a big decision if I do decide to buy. There is a rush because I think there's a limited amount of time to consider the hardware, because I think the hardware is going to slowly go away, and it's going to be more easy to just do it with simpler things. So that is where I would want to make the decision quicker. But ultimately, there's no particular time I can do this. So I'm going to do my research. I'm going to take up your advice and look it in that direction. And ultimately, something is going to happen, and I will continue moving forward until it all clicks together.
Yeah, maybe no pun intended, I'm sure. Perhaps what you could do is push back on that Matterport that Matterport rep, and say, hey, one of the things I really need to do to make a decision is to compare and contrast upfront costs, fixed costs, variable costs, et cetera, and say, how about doing the chart for me? I don't understand why they haven't taken the time to put together that chart. Maybe you could push back on them a little bit.
I could
say, hey, why should I have to go through this math? You all know how much your competitor systems cost, what kind of gear we need, et cetera. How about, taking the first crack at it? So, yeah.
Sounds like a good idea.
Just the last thing, Jack, I visited your website, jackjdigital.com, jackjdigital.com. I did see this amazing picture of the space shuttle that you took. What a great picture.
Thank you.
What kind of camera did you use?
No, not that question.
And by the way, I'm thinking about buying a camera. Which camera should I get?
Yeah. What's the best lens?
What's the best lens for the camera?
Or I get this. I have $100 to spend. What camera should I buy? And then I get that. It's like everyone in my family knows what I do for a living, so I'm the one they come to for computer stuff and camera stuff, and but I don't have to. I don't have pictures of my. You know how they say the shoemaker's family doesn't, I don't try not to spread myself too thin, but I'm always happy to help people come up with a decision depending on what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I know that before we went on the air tonight, I was talking about that dreaded question that we always seem to get when we're so proud of the amazing pictures that we've taken, and the first question that comes back is, what camera did you use to shoot that? As if that was all that mattered.
No, I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know that it's who's behind the camera. I mean, you can take a picture with a cheap old camera, and I've taken pictures with my expensive pro camera and manipulated it to look like it was taken with a cheap camera. And that's the stuff that sometimes looks as what I refer to as wall worthy, something you would want to put on your wall. It can be out of focus. It can have different creative textures and different combinations of effects, and it could be done with a very simple camera. I mean, for my kind of work that I do, I mean, because I'm doing pharmaceutical stuff, I'm doing food, and I'm doing, commercial images. So I have to have something that's going to be very accurate and sharp, a lot of resolution and controllable. But for my fine art stuff, when I was down in Cape Kennedy doing the shuttle stuff and stuff, I wanted the best I can have. And as a real quick story, I happened to find a picture not too long ago. I think it was National Geographic's. And when I was there, they have everybody representing there. And there was a picture. I was on the edge of the, right around the perimeter of the launch pad, taking a picture of the shuttle the day before it was supposed to launch. And it's a beautiful sunrise, beautiful, beautiful light. And me and about, a dozen other photographers are all lined up. And I'm up there and I'm looking through the camera, and another guy from a big photo group ended up going down the hill and taking a picture of all the photographers in a line with the shuttle behind them. And it was put in all these different magazines and newspapers. Well, I took a look one day and realized that I'm in the picture. I actually saw myself, and I'm like, oh, there's me. I had an orange hoodie on, and I'm like, there's my orange hoodie. So I have this interesting picture of myself proving that I actually was there, because I was at the first and the last launch. So I have a nice history of memories of being right next to that thing.
Yeah, I could actually tingle hearing you tell the story, because I know that I've been so lucky to be able to do some amazing experiences, and it's only been possible as a photographer, that it's almost that my camera is a key that unlocks the door to take me, to take you to places that you couldn't buy the opportunity to be where you were, to take that picture of the space shuttle. And that's because you're a professional photographer, and that opens
it opens a lot of doors. And I mean, I was born at the beginning of the space program. I've always been interested in space and travel and technology. So that was a goal that no matter how I had to do it, I had to put myself in a position to get there. And to be right in front of that launch pad, looking at that thing in front of you, I mean, it's gone. They don't do it anymore. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it. And when I did, to be in that vehicle assembly building and be, feet away from it, looking down. Maybe I'll post a couple pictures.
That would be great. I mean, there really are great, awesome
Yeah.
pictures.
I would have loved to have been there for the SpaceX launch yesterday, but that couldn't happen. But
yeah.
So
Jack, thank you again for being on the show today.
You're welcome, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we've been visiting today with Jack J. It's actually Jack Turkel, goes by Jack Turkel, goes by Jack J Digital, jackjdigital.com. You can check out his pictures of NASA, Mount Fuji, the space shuttles, help me out, the launch of the
space shuttle, and what else?
Mount Fuji, your food styling pictures.
Oh, yeah, food styling and just general fine art stuff, and
cats. Everybody's got some cat pictures.
Yeah, you always got to have the cat pictures.
jackjdigital.com. We'll thank Carl from the UK for popping in, and thank you all for watching. You've been watching WGAN TV live at 5 from Atlanta, and from From
Central Jersey.
Central Jersey. We need one selfie here so we can do one picture. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, higher, a little higher, big smile, and we'll use that on our little still store. Okay, good. Thanks, Jack. Good visiting with you.
Okay, Dan, take care.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, thanks all. And be sure to tune in tomorrow for RELA. We'll have the CEO of RELA on our program tomorrow. Thanks again for tuning in. Good night.